heard that.
One more.
Hi, my name's Richie with VA Silent Arsenal, and this is In the Brush with Prez. Today we're going to talk about our .338 Winchester Short Magnum, the platforms that we put it in, a little bit of its history, the capabilities, the ammo that we produce, and to let you know that there are a lot of other vendors in the country that do produce ammo for it as well, and we're even going to show you how to make ammo yourself. The big point that we really want to get across with not just this WSM that we make, but all the WSMs that we make, that they're really not all that wild. First off, what is a Wildcat? A Wildcat is a cartridge that is not in SAAMI's book. SAAMI's book is a big, long process that manufacturers go through to have a governing body approve it. So if you go to a reloading manual, you go to SAAMI's book, you will not find .338 Winchester Short Mag. What is a .338 Winchester Short Mag? In the early 2000s, Winchester took a lot of common bullet diameters from long magnums and said, well, we're going to make these short action magnums. There was a big demand for it in the market. A lot of different companies were making short magnums of some sort. And Winchester said, okay, we're going to make 270, 7mm, 300, and 325. Well, there's a lot of rumors that the 325 was actually supposed to be a .338 WSM, but they couldn't quite make it as powerful as the .338 Winchester Magnum. Now the .338 Winchester Magnum is a long action. So you have 300 WSM and you have 300 Winchester Short Mag. They're supposed to be the taller and the shorter brother of each other, really. Ballistically, they're almost identical. So whenever there was supposed to be the bigger version of that, what was the bigger version? They ultimately released 325 WSM and called it a day. 325 is an 8mm bullet. The bullet selection isn't all that great. So there was always a lot of talk of, well, let's wildcat that 325 WSM and make 338 WSM. And there's been some custom gunsmiths that have done so. So whenever we were looking to make it, we were really happy to see that it came together pretty easily. The die sets were already available through Redding, and we're a Redding distributor. So when it comes to the parts, the components, very simple to either make it yourself or just to buy from us without the fear of not being able to go down to the local shop and not seeing it on the shelf. Plenty of vendors across the country that make ammo for this caliber. What are the capabilities of .338 WSM? We like to say from whitetail to anything that walks North America. Now granted, that's going to depend on the bullet choice. That bullet choice may also depend on what type of barrel length you have. You may want to choose something that's 22 inches to really reach out there to 1,000 yards for our maximum range. And when we say 1,000 yards, that is what we're comfortable in saying, that you can take large game with a few different types of bullets and you will really hit that game hard. Now for us, we don't take shots that far. We just don't have that type of terrain. So 18-inch barrels and silencers, that's what we really like. And we can do that comfortably out to 500 yards. And there's only a few different scenarios in the last couple of years that in Virginia or Pennsylvania, I've had that 400, 450 yard scenario, and I was very comfortable taking those shots. Now that said, we use bullets anywhere from 160 grain to 250 grain. One thing that the .338 WSM doesn't particularly do well is shooting those 280s, 290s, 300s at a great speed. And when I say a great speed, something that's going to be optimized for the shooting situation. It's not a .338 Lapua. It just doesn't have the powder capacity of that cartridge. That is a long action, and it is significantly longer than the short action .338 WSM. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of talk about our platforms a little bit and move on from there. So the .338 WSM and the platforms it goes in. Just like the rest of our WSMs, It goes in all the platforms that we make. TXH F10, which is a semi-auto sitting behind me. We can put it in a bolt gun, a very basic bolt gun. We can blueprint the action like seen here. Do a rim edge barrel that you can change yourself, or even a lever action. So you can really just email us and call us and work with us, and we'll definitely do all the fact finding to figure out what it is that's going to make the gun perfect for you. And definitely make it to where you can change it down the road if you want, if your needs change, so to speak. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shift to another camera. We're going to look at all the ammo and the components up close, so you can really kind of grasp and wrap your head around just really how cool this caliber is. And it's something that you can make yourself. There's nothing different about the reloading process compared to making even .308. You do all the same steps, and we're going to go into those further, so just sit tight. Alright, now it's time to move on to some of the components of .338 Winchester short mag. This is definitely not all the bullets that we can put into it, but it does show the principle of the two different types of bullets that we use and why, and how we load it. So that being said, we're going to point out this guy right here. This is 300 Winchester short mag with a 180 grain bullet. I believe this is Fusion branded ammo. Next to it is our production .338 Winchester short mag with a 225 grain AccuBond. If you look at the shoulders, at the angle of both, it's the same. If you would take calipers, and I'll show you in a little while, and you measure the diameter of the shoulder, it is the same. The shoulder diameter should always be between 0.531 and 0.533 inches for a factory piece of brass. And if you get Winchester brass, Nosler brass, Hornady brass, or even the one that we probably use the most is Bertram brass, and you can go to bertrambrass.com to see all their different WSM offerings, that shoulder diameter should be the same. Why is that important? Well, if you've done any reloading in the past and you set up a die set wrong, you can actually increase the shoulder diameter. If you increase the shoulder diameter, you may not be able to chamber around. Now that sounds a little bit daunting, but it is just something to pay attention to in any type of caliber that you make. But the big point is, no matter what WSM you have, that shoulder diameter always remains the same. All the way to the far right, this black tip piece of ammo is a Maker T-Rex, and it's also 225 grain. So the 225 grain bullets that we like to use, those are for our TXH F10 specifically. Now, they shoot just as well out of a bolt gun or a lever gun, but the length is what is super important. The TXH F10 magazines that we use, and there's different brands, and you can go see that segment on the TXH F10 about the internal overall length of a magazine. So we load these at 2.840 inches in length. That is not even the maximum length for a 300 WSM by Sammy spec. So that's pretty neat. So we keep it well within those same typical lengths. The red tipped piece of ammo you see, that is our 230 grain ELDX. We love this ammo. It has a broader range of expansion velocities, and the ballistic coefficient on it is great. And you can actually see one sitting all the way over here that is not loaded. That ammo cannot be put into a lever gun or a TXH F10. Why is that? It is significantly longer. This is actually significant when it comes to reloading. So that particular piece of ammo, the 230 grain ELDX, measures 2.915 inches. Now we could actually go a little longer, but that's kind of the niche that we found that was best. And if you want to play with the overall length later on, you can definitely do that. It is up to you. But that is how we sell that ammo in the production line, 2.915 inches. Other than that, like I said, the shoulder angles, the shoulder diameters are all the same. And depending on the bullet, the length may be a little bit different. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move over and we're going to talk about cutting brass and also prepping the neck for sizing and for bullet seating. Alright, it is time to prep and cut our brass. So what we're going to do is we are going to get some 325 WSM brass. And we have a Frankfurt Arsenal case prep center in front of us with a cutter and 2 chamfering tools for the neck. This is available at most retailers. You can go to our website and order it as a package with a whole bunch of other equipment, or throw it in with your gun purchase and you get it at a significant discount. It is something that we definitely keep on the shelf. One of the biggest things that we do is we trim every single WSM to the same length. Out of the bag, they can be all sorts of lengths. So that being said, you can grab your calipers, make sure you zero them out, and you take a fresh piece of brass out of the bag and you measure the length. So this one comes in at 2.097 inches. If you read any reloading book, or I think it might be in Sammy's book, 300 Winchester short mag should be 2.090 inches in trim length. They don't recommend that you go any shorter than that. That is the shortest it should be. Now, could I load this piece of brass and would it fire well? Most likely. We like to have consistency. And you're going to see that depending on necking up or necking down and any type of brass movement, you can lose or gain length. So with this, because we're necking up, we're going to make this neck bigger to fit a bigger bullet. We will lose a little bit of length even after we trimmed it. And it's just a natural process when the brass goes into the sizing die and the sizing button goes down through the neck. That said, let's go ahead and trim our brass down. Now you're going to see that I was actually turning the case. That's just because my cutter is really dull. I need to replace it. So to get uniform cutting, I do turn it a little bit. I give it a little tap on the table. Then I take my brush. And I do that just to make sure all the metal particles are out of it. I will re-zero my calipers just to make sure it's an accurate measurement. And we went a little too far. Right there. We went 1/1000th of an inch too far. And like I said, we're necking up, so that is not going to matter. You're going to see this case get a little bit shorter than that. And this is not a workaround. So if you get 2.088 and it's just a little bit off, you don't have to throw it in the trash. This is the exact same way we set up the production machines to make ammo. And if we would pull 3 out of the 1,000, would they all be 2.090 inches after the cutting stage? Maybe, maybe not. But they're going to be really, really close. We have plenty of guns out there that shoot half MOA in 338 WSM using this same process. Whether I make it and I take my personal one to the range or hunting, or it's a production round, it is the same exact ammo, same exact powder. So with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the chamfering tools. I use this one for 2 seconds, this one for 5 seconds to smooth out the inside of the neck and give it a slight angle for when the sizing button goes through and for when the bullet does go down in to be seated. If you don't do these steps, and some people do and some people don't, when you have a bullet being seated, this is just a random 358 bullet, you can actually shave pieces of the jacket off down into the neck, and therefore you would have a lot of inconsistency when trying to group. So that's one thing that we go through this process to make sure that we have the best consistency possible. Alright, so now we have a very nice looking, fully prepped 325 WSM case. And we'll put that next to an unprepped case. And should be able to see the difference. What we're going to do now is we're going to shift over to the press, and we're going to go ahead and size and prime our 325 WSM, and then it will actually transform into 338 WSM. So here I have a Redding T7 turret press, and it's on an inline fabrication mount. And even on a home built bench, whether it's something large or small, having this setup is definitely worth the money. Again, you can get a package deal from us and see if it's on sale, if we're running a sale. But this really makes life easy, especially if you have multiple calibers. So that being said, here I have a 338 WSM sizing die. Now this is a Redding product. We are a Redding distributor. And with these, they're very simple to adjust. The goal is to have the ram kiss or barely touch the bottom of the die. And the way that you do that is there's a locking collar here that you use an Allen to loosen. And you find the appropriate length, because each sizing die is going to be different depending on the caliber. So you're going to find where it does that, and then you will screw this down and use the Allen to tighten it. And this is for the sizing die only. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab our piece of lubricated brass. I'm going to find a primer. Let me get just put up just a little bit and get my arm down ready. Excuse me, the arm for the primer down there. And you will see that this 325 to 338 takes very minimal effort. It's almost just like you're making 30-06 or 308. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my primer in. And there we have 338 WSM. Now I was talking about measurements earlier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to a mat so we can kind of cover where to measure to make sure that you're making your brass properly, so you don't have to stop every single time to measure it. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to do essentially quality control. We're going to make sure that we actually made the 338 WSM properly. And there's a few crucial things that you need to check. One is the shoulder diameter that I spoke of earlier. If you don't remember what that is, you will get this number stuck in your head forever, because all the WSMs need to be the same. Anywhere between 0.530, 531, and 533 are acceptable. So let's go ahead and see what we have on this one. And you want to make sure that you get it right in the middle. .533. I saw 532 flicker for a second. Yeah, there we are. So obviously that is acceptable. And if you move down to the thinner part of the calipers, try to make sure it's the same. And it is very, very close. As long as I don't slip on the Hornady one shot. So we know that we have not changed what it was originally. There is another measurement that did change. And I mentioned in the necking up process, when you make the case mouth a larger diameter, you lose length. Go back to 0. .085 inches. And if you remember what I was saying earlier, 2.090 inches is 300 WSM trim length by almost every reloading book that is published. So we lost a little bit of length. Is there to be any concern over that? Not at all. This exact same ammo that I'm going to make and I'm going to go shoot out of my personal guns whether it's a production run of 1,000 or more rounds, 99 out of 100, if you pulled them off before they were had powder and a bullet put in them, they would almost all measure that. And it's a constant consistency that allows our guns to shoot half MOA even out of our gas guns, or the TXH F10 if you will. So don't be too concerned. If it would go below 2.080, something's going on, because you should not be losing that much length. 5,000th, 6,000th of an inch, that's not too bad. So let's go ahead and check the mouth diameter. Now, it's not going to be exactly 338. It's going to be a little bit below that, because there has to be a little bit of room to be kind of smushed. So 335, definitely acceptable. Anywhere between 333 and 336 is fine, because it's going to be a 338 bullet going down in there. So now you've done your Q&A. So let's go ahead and get some powder in this and seat a bullet. Alright, we're just going to cover briefly about putting powder into a case, because there's a lot of different little methods to do, and this is not something that you really need to focus on. If you have the load data, you have a specific amount of powder that you need to put in it. Read your owner's manual on your powder dispenser, or if you're using your old scale systems, again, you have to balance that out. So with this RCBS Mini, I believe it's a 1500 series, again, sold at most retailers. You can buy it from us in a package. This is what I use to personally make my own ammo if I want to tinker with something. It's a very efficient unit, and if it happens to get it wrong for whatever reason, you just dump the powder back in the top and it does it again. One thing that we are pretty particular of when doing single stage hand loading, a Lyman funnel. This funnel is so much better than any other funnel out there. There's a lot of different funnels, and depending if you're using the 325, 458, let's see if I have an empty 6.5 sitting around. I have a loaded 6.5. You can see that the neck differences are all very different. And I know that there's systems out there for funnels that have powder straws that are different diameters and things like that. You can go down the road and test the things that you want, but I will tell you, the Lyman powder funnel for $4 or $5 at most retailers, it fits every single WSM that we make. And if you just simply hold it still, you're not going to spill any powder. All the other ones, I cannot say the same. There's a lot of little powder funnels that we've thrown in the trash just because we say they leak powder. So that being said, you've now dispensed your powder into your pan. It has shown the proper weight. You have put it into your case through your Lyman powder funnel, or however you choose. So now it's time to go and seat a bullet. So now what we're going to do on our retting press is we're going to go ahead and remove the arm from the priming. Don't need that anymore. And we're going to spin it over to where I have a 338 WSM bullet seater. And I was doing some the other night, and I think it's probably still set, but I'm going to check it. So I'm going to back the seater all the way out. Now, how you set up a seating die is different than when you set up a sizing die. And if you read the retting instructions, it talks about that. So remember I said on a sizing die, the ram had to kiss the bottom of the die. You can see here there is a gap. The gap is there for a reason. Because what I've done on this particular one, and I never have to change it because I've already set the collar, but whenever you do this for the first time, is you want to take an empty piece of brass, unscrew your seater, put the brass all the way in to where your ram is all the way up, and you want to turn it. And you want to turn it until it stops. And it's going to stop whenever the portion of the brass, the neck, has come to an end of the die itself. Just a little turn so it's snug. And the reason why you do this, and there's a whole other technique we could go down the road on when it comes to bumping a shoulder, and we are not going to talk about that that is way off the reservation for this concept, is if you would have this too far down, you would move the shoulder angle. And usually what happens, because you're trying to seat a bullet, you will actually compress the neck down into the shoulder. So it will be visually deformed, and you can think, oh my goodness, what have I done? Always want to check the measurement of and the placement of your seater. So now that my seater is screwed in, I have the bullet seater itself all the way out. I'm going to grab a 230 grain ELDX, and I'm going to make it 2.915 overall length. And I can tell you the first time up, it's not going to be that. I'm going to show you how to adjust it first. So with this bullet, because of the long bullet tail, it'll actually sit in there, but some other bullets you got to hold. So just go up once, because it's all the way out. It's barely going to seat it in there. And what we'll do is we'll actually check it. Zero out your calipers. And I would say this is probably going to be over 3 inches. Yep. So we still have a little bit of a way to go. So to make this shorter, you unscrew the locker and you twist clockwise, which brings the seater down. I'll give it a couple half turns, do it again, measure again. So we need to give it a lot more turns than that. I'm going to go 1, half, all the way up. $2,981. So now we're getting somewhere. Those turns got me roughly 0.06 of an inch. So we got to do a half turn, see where we land. I didn't feel very much change on that pass. Yeah. Give it another full turn. .918. So we're really close. So whenever it comes to being really close, if you're within 0.005 of an inch, it's not going to change your accuracy. It's going to be very close. Because there's going to be a lot of other factors that come into play, whether you're a couple feet per second difference and being a couple thousandths difference. You're going to see that every bullet, even though they're manufactured by some of the best manufacturers in the world, they're going to have their own little inconsistencies. So if it's 2.915, 2.914, 2.916, that is all perfectly fine. So just make sure you have your seater locked down, and now you can just go round after round after round. And before you know, once you put all these pieces together, you can have a very quick process and make a lot of ammo pretty quickly. So that's it for making your own ammo. What we're going to do is we're just going to go back and sit down and have a little bit of an overview and wrap it up. Well, that pretty much wraps up the 338 Winchester Short Mag. I'd like to thank everyone for watching and supporting us. And we, again, want everybody to see that having one of our WSMs, even though they're technically a Wildcat, they're really not all that wild. We want the light to be shining across all of them so everybody can see that having something of a higher prestige is just so much cooler than mainstream. And it's not that difficult. There's nothing to really fear. You can get ammo from us. I just showed you how to really make ammo step by step, and you get the load data from us if you want to make it yourself. Plenty of retailers across the country that are already making it or will make it for you. So there's no shortage of anything. Going down to, I forget the name of the store, whoever's little store, and trying to find ammo for it off the shelf? No. But do you see a Ferrari at every corner? No. Having something like this is really, really special and super fun. If you have any questions, send us an email at cs@vasilentarsenal.com. Go to our website, look at all the different brands of stuff that we have. We shoot a lot of different types of bullets. We work hand in hand with Maker Bullets. They've made our 458 WSM what it is. The subsonic bullets that we shoot out of that. There was nothing that existed on the market, and now there is, and there's more to come with that. Look for our other segments on our calibers and our platforms, and really just absorb all the different things that we make. From small to big, no matter what your shooting situation, we have a lot of really cool stuff we can put in your hands. Thanks again, and as always, send it quietly.